Good Wednesday morning, everybody. This is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Big update on Irma this morning, so we're going to get right to it to show you what's going on. First things first, let's show you where it is right now. You can see on the GOES 16 1-minute updated half-kilometer resolution, by the way, satellite imagery. You can see there's Puerto Rico, British Virgin Islands, and there's our eye moving off in this general direction. Very impressive storm. Hit several islands last night. We haven't heard a lot from them yet, but I was watching some of the sensors down there before they failed. Had wind gusts to 155 miles an hour and pressure down to 920 millibars. So really scary storm still, but it's got a long ways to go. And because it's a Cat 5 now, I don't think it's going to be a Cat 5 4 or 5 days from now. And I'm going to show you the track because this is the latest track just in from the Hurricane Center. The whole time it's going to be a dangerous storm. It's going to be a major Category 3 hurricane. But notice that there are some signs of weakening long range slowly, not enough, because it's going to start encountering shear and it's going to interact with some more islands, and obviously the inflow is going to be blocked by some of these bigger mountains. And then it's going to make a turn on Sunday into Monday morning. And this has been a pretty dramatic shift in the guidance. Now the Hurricane Center is going to be more subtle with this shift because it's still a chance it could bounce back west or it could go even further east. So you want to make these changes subtly because you don't want people to go flip-flop. We call windshield wipering the track. You don't want to do that. That's why looking at individual model runs every 6 hours is just confusing. Doesn't really make you more prepared for the storm. You got to look at things in totality and over a time period. But there has been a definitely shift to the east in the track guidance. Some landfall interaction with Florida is still possible. But this area out here is what we still have to watch, because if this turn occurs quicker, it's going to be over water, and that would keep the storm stronger as it comes up towards the Carolinas Monday night into Tuesday. And that's really the time frame we're watching. Just to give you an idea, I'm going to show you the guidance from this, which I showed earlier. And one of the things I look at quite a bit are what we call ensembles. And I'm a big fan of these because it shows the spread in the guidance. So what you're looking at here is not just one model run. You're looking at 51 variations of that model with subtle changes made to the initial conditions. So you get basically a probability spread on where the storm will go. And you could see for a probability, this is a pretty good certainty that it's going to impact somewhere up in here. It gets wild up here, but obviously we're not paying attention to that right now. But you got to know there is a chance that this could still turn this way, could still come out this way, but the mean or the average is somewhere in between. Now, what's important to know about this is, yes, there's going to be an impact in the Carolinas. We still don't know the severity of it because what we don't know is where and when this turn happens. That's very uncertain still, because that churn, how sharp it is, where it happens, does it interact with land, is going to make a huge difference on what impacts we see not only in Florida or the Bahamas, but really all the way up into the Carolinas. Now, if we look at the water vapor loop, and I look at this quite a bit for steering because you can't get caught up in just models, what's the atmosphere actually doing right now is a really key part of this. Some people don't spend enough time doing that. So the one thing you notice right away, and my head is behind the storm, so it's down here. And actually, let me move that out of the way. I'll move me over here for a second. So you can see the storm. There is our hurricane right there. Still got big, strong, high pressure to the north, which is pushing it this direction. One thing you notice, and I'm going to move it up a little bit, is we've got a little trough which is digging down. But if you look carefully, it's already starting to pull out. So this isn't really the trough that's going to have a big influence on it. The trough that's going to have a big influence is this little short wave you see coming down on the backside of this first trough. So if you look up here, you can actually see there's what we call a short wave, which is a mini little disturbance in the flow coming down. That appears to have a much bigger play. At least the guidance is starting to indicate that that's going to have a much bigger play on the forecast now than this first trough. And I'll show you what that looks like on the European model, because the one thing, the European model it's always considered a really good model, and I don't like looking at one specific model, but the track forecast for the European has actually been the lowest for the first 5 days of this storm. So I'm putting a little more credence in it than the other models, but even it is just one model. We have a saying, all models are wrong, some models are useful. This is going to be a model that's useful. You can see that first trough digging out and moving out of here. You see it up here? Moving off this way. But look at this little thing. It doesn't look like much. It's like a little piece of energy that's broken off. It's almost like almost a cutoff low type looking thing, and then it dives to the south, and you see it start to have two reflections, one there and one there, while the trough is digging out this way. So this is really interesting, and look how strong the ridge is still. So the combination of all this is leaving a little window somewhere in here for this storm to go. Somewhere in here, and I think there's even a small chance it could do this, kind of like a la, almost like a Matthew last year. I hate comparing storms, but Matthew was one of those ones that hugged the coast, and we had a lot of rain here, and it never really officially made landfall in North Carolina. But you can see that this little low coming down through Georgia or Alabama and Mississippi starts to influence it on Sunday and pull it north. Now, depending on how much of the circulation stays over water is going to determine how strong the storm is, and then it moves it north Monday night into Tuesday morning. So for the Charlotte area and the Carolinas, Monday night into Tuesday is the main time frame, and then it moves it out pretty quickly. Now, what type of impacts are we going to see from this? There's still a whole lot of uncertainty, because if you look at the guidance here, this is the track guidance, they stretch from Florida all the way out to here. So you can see there are some possibilities out here still, but the majority of them are right in here. I don't know about this turn. I'll be honest with you. That it's hard for me to imagine a Category 5 hurricane making an abrupt right turn. Doesn't mean it's not going to turn, folks. I don't want you to think that. I just think it's going to be more rounded like this, or the storm's going to come in at a much higher northerly latitude and make a churn like this. I can't imagine it doing one of these and being like that. So I think it's somewhere in the Bahamas. So if you're going to watch something over the next couple of days, is don't get caught up in the model guidance. They're going to flip-flop all over. Look where the actual storm is trending. Is it trending north? Is it moving towards 20 latitude north? Is it getting higher up? Because the closer it stays to the top of this guidance envelope, the better the chance that it's going to turn north earlier. The further south it stays on this guidance envelope, the fact that that turn is going to take a lot longer to occur in Florida would be more in play. But right now, you're seeing something down the middle, which is what you do as a meteorologist. You don't pick out one track. You take the average or the mean of them, and that's what you're trying to do as the storm moves towards us. But the thing you need to remember, there are going to be impacts in the Carolinas. That's almost a certainty. It's just a question of how bad and what type of impacts. And the impacts we would be concerned about the most would be if the storm stays offshore, misses Florida. Florida would have impacts, but you would be on the west side. And then we have a direct impact in South Carolina, North Carolina, maybe even Georgia. Huge surge impacts here and wind impacts. And then further north, rain would be an issue, but to me the wind is going to be an issue, because the storm, even as it weakens, would be a tropical storm at least, with 50, 60 mile an hour winds. You throw in some heavy rain, you get trees and power lines. So if you're looking for an impact inland, it's trees coming down and power line issues and flooding. On the coast, you're worried about storm surge and damaging winds that could be over 100 miles an hour. So what should you be doing now? Let me move my head back over here, and I'll show you this. I posted this yesterday. I reposted it today because I had to make a bunch of fixes to it. But I like the Ready, Set, Go plan, and this works really well for hurricanes. Right now, we are clearly in this ready mode right in here. So this is what everybody should be doing. In Florida, you should really start to get into this mode, especially for South Florida. And as we get closer, we'll go to the Go plan. Now, the Go plan is for people that are in flood-prone areas. Even inland, I would think about this. If you live in an area that gets flooded a lot, I would consider going to higher ground or evacuating to a better location. If you're at the coast, you evacuate inland to get away from the storm surge. If you're inland or even far enough away from the coast, you're not worried about storm surge, we hide from the wind. The saying I always go is, you run from the water, you hide from the wind. You only evacuate if you're worried about flooding. You don't evacuate because you're worried about wind. I mean, if you have the possibility to do so, by all means, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. But the thing is, it's hard to tell where you go. Like some people in Florida want to evacuate here. Well, we could have just as much wind up here. So if you're moving for wind, you'd have to go really far west to get away from any wind. So the better plan is just have a shelter, like you would for a severe thunderstorm or tornado. Make sure you're in a building or something when the winds get highest, that you have somewhere to go. That's really the way you got to kind of look at it. So one of my favorite maps on the Hurricane Center site, and I'm going to refresh this, and it's not used enough, is because it's not a single track. It kind of gives you a really good indication on when the tropical storm force winds are going to move in. And hopefully this will update for me so I can use it. But it's the earliest reasonable arrival time, which will give you the earliest possible that we think the hurricane or the tropical storm force winds are going to arrive. And we've also got the most likely. And I kind of like the most likely. So let me refresh this for a second. And trust me, you need to be looking at the Hurricane Center site or following someone like me, a meteorologist. Please stay away from some of these sites, which are just out there to get you clicks and to scare you. So I love this because it shows the possibility of arrival Sunday morning at the earliest, but even notice we could see some up there sooner than that, and you could see the probability. So this is the most likely arrival of tropical storm force winds, and if you look carefully, this will give you a good timing. In Florida, you've basically got till Saturday morning. For the Carolinas, you've got to Sunday night, and up in Charlotte, it's really Monday that we're going to be ready for this potential impact of tropical storm force winds. And the other thing to notice is how wide this gets. This means it's going to be a big storm. Don't focus on the line. Remember, like in Harvey, people got caught up. Where's the track? Ooh, it's Corpus Christi. No big deal for Houston. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Always look at the impacts. How far away from the center are the winds and the rain from this system? And as it gets closer to the Carolinas and even Florida, the storm is going to get bigger in size. So those threats will increase. So if you're evacuating from Florida or any location, you can't be going up here this way to evacuate or going down here. You need to be going this way or this way to get away from it. So that's why evacuation is one of those things. Wait till people tell you to go and wait till you know exactly where the storm's going to go, because you could evacuate to an area that gets hit by the storm later down the road. I know this was kind of long today. Hope this helps you kind of plan. I will start doing these updates a little bit more frequently over the next couple of days as we get closer to this storm moving towards us. But this is the map I want to leave you with today. I'm going to move it over one more time. This is how we need to prepare. Get to that ready, set, go stage right here. We're in the ready stage, so go ahead and start doing that now. This is what you need to do over the next couple of days. Don't freak out. Don't, be calm. The worst decisions in the world are made when people do them rashly or don't think them out. I'm trying to build this up so we have time to get ready and people can prepare. Florida needs to be ready now and tomorrow. And the Carolinas, we need to be ready by the end of the weekend into Monday.